Hi everyone, so I am here for what is a very specific kind of haul, as you've probably already guessed from the title, which is a haul chosen by my subscribers, although they didn't necessarily know they were choosing my haul. If you follow me on Twitter, then you might see that sort of every few weeks, sometimes every few days, I quite often ask for book recommendations. Perhaps I've been reading within a specific subgenre, or I want a melding of two different things that I don't know how to necessarily find because it's not like a straightforward genre, and I am never disappointed. You have never let me down. Anytime I ask for a recommendation on Twitter, I always get numerous and they're always fantastic, and I quite often add those books to my wish list. Recently though, I've also specifically gone ahead and picked up quite a few of those books in the immediate aftermath of your recommendations, so I'm very much aware that it was you who picked those books for me, and I thought it would be fun to do a whole book haul themed around that, where my subscribers basically chose my book haul because these are all books that you recommended to me. And there was even one tweet which was literally just, if you could only recommend one book to me, whatever it is, what would it be? And a few of those books came off that list, which was so much fun because just finding out what the one book that somebody loves and also thinks you will love is fascinating. I am going to go slightly off topic, however, at the beginning of this video, because I just received this little box in the post yesterday, and it's a new bookish subscription service that I haven't tried before, and I really want to unbox it, but I want to unbox it on camera, so I'm kind of just going to put it in this book haul. But given that I didn't actually pick the book in here myself, I feel like it's still sort of within the theme. It's a book that's being recommended to me, although I'm not necessarily specifically me, but it is a genre that I'm really in the mood for at the moment, because this is the Book Resort box, which is a lovely independent company based out of Ireland, and they got in touch, asked if they could just send me a box very kindly, and of course how could I say no. They specifically like to pair a book in every box with some lovely like artisan independent business chocolate, which yes, I love chocolate, and often some other little bits and pieces. Like I looked at some of their previous boxes on their website and it looked adorable. Lots of companies based out of Ireland, and it's really nice to learn about new independent companies. I love shopping small, so I really like a box like this that also then sort of directs you to more small businesses, and also obviously gives you a book. Now I don't know what book is in here, but I do know that it's within the thriller mystery genre, which if you've been watching my videos recently, you'll know I am 100% in the mood for, but you can pick what genre you want your book to be in, so that gives you a little bit more leeway. But I think that pretty much covers everything, so I really want to unbox it here and find out what's inside, because I literally have no idea, but if there's chocolate I'm going to eat it, and that's going to be great fun. Okay, so this is what it looks like inside. We have a little card here. So this is a little card with a bird on it, which I love, to go alongside the box. We then have this, which is The Happy News by Emily Coxhead, a newspaper to celebrate all that's good in the world. The Happy Newspaper is a platform to share positive news and wonderful people. I think I've heard of this. I feel like a friend told me about this. It might have been Lena at some point, but it is a newspaper with the intention of like sharing nice things that are going on in the world, because as important as it is to stay abreast of current politics and things going on in the world, and that is something I would highly encourage all of you to do and to make sure you are aware, it is also nice to hear about some nice things, and nice things do happen. So that's really fun. Oh, I'm going to have a little peruse of this later. Remarkable blue whale numbers reported. Oh, wonderful. Medical dramas have been donating their supplies of PPE, which is adorable. And it is important to also know about like the positive steps being taken across the world. I think that's really encouraging, especially if sometimes you feel like nothing ever changes. So we then have the actual main contents of this box. So we have some tissue paper wrapped up here. I'm gonna dive in. Yep, chocolate. I see chocolate. Oh, what? 2 chocolates. Okay. Oh, there's 2 different types of chocolate. Right. So we have a bar of chocolate here, which is handmade in Ireland. It is milk chocolate from Chez Emily, Irish-Belgian chocolatier. I will link any websites down below if they have online websites, and obviously Book Resort will also be linked down below. But this is some milk chocolate, which is my fave, so I'm really excited to eat that tonight whilst I watch Bones, which is my current evening routine. But then we also have some actual like homemade chocolates. This is from Victoria's Incredible Edibles, Pure Delights Chocolatey Chocolates, also made in Ireland. Okay, I'm really excited to try one of those. Should I try one now? Should I try one now? Okay, I'm gonna try one now. I'm gonna try one now. Oh. chocolate for lunch. What more could anybody want? Yep. Okay, this is a book subscription box, so let's look at the book. Oh, there's something else. Sorry, I got distracted by the chocolate. There's also soap. So this is some tea tree and peppermint handmade artisan soap. Oh, and it's vegan, no palm oil, no SLS, which is fantastic. Always need more bars of soap. Now we have the book. Okay, so I do not know this book. This is not a cover that I recognise, which is good because it means that I don't already have it. And that's In Her Eyes by Sarah Alderson. The little subheading here says, someone is watching your family. Great, okay. You're at home with your family. You think you're safe. You're wrong. What an intro. Ava's life is the kind other people envy. Loving husband, great kids, beautiful house, until a violent home invasion leaves her daughter fighting to survive. This didn't seem like a random attack, and Ava is reeling from the knowledge that someone is targeting her family. Who could hate them enough to kill? Ava must find a way to save those she loves from even greater danger. But when everyone around her has been lying, how will she decide who to trust? And with her own secrets threatening to come to light, can she even trust herself? Oh, this sounds good. I've never heard of this author or this book, which is fantastic. I'm very excited to eat and use all of these things whilst reading my book. This is just lovely. Now, however, let us move on to the books that I intentionally bought for myself but that were recommended by you. Just give me a minute, I'm finishing my chocolate. Okay, so I want to try and remember where each of these recommendations came from, as in what context. And I think these first 3 paperbacks were all recommended to me in that tweet where I just asked for the one book you would choose for me if you could choose a book for me. And these were some of those books. So there was 3 paperbacks, but I also picked up a few ebooks that were quite cheap from that list. So we'll start with the paperbacks. And the first one I am so excited about. This was actually one of the first recommendations I got, and I instantly bought it, and I actually think was the sort of like instigator of this video because I couldn't resist immediately buying it and just thought, hey, maybe I should do a haul where I haul books that were recommended to me. And this is Bloodlust and Bonnets by Emily McGovern. This is a graphic novel that sounds so spectacular. It says on the back that it is a hilarious pastiche of classic romantic literature led by a trio of queer misfits and several angry vampires. I just think that sounds so fantastic. I've actually seen some of Emily McGovern's illustrations and cartoons online from people sharing them, but I didn't realise that she had an entire book, so it was really nice to have that drawn to my attention. I just think it looks fantastic. So I believe the central character here on the front is fictional, but one of these other characters is also Lord Byron, so there is sort of historical literary figures in there as well, all blended together, and I love the idea of sort of Mary Shelley-esque time period characters off sort of involved in the actual mysteries, and it just looks so funny, so like riotous and intriguing, and then also the fact that they're all queer is just even better, and I'm just so excited for this. So thank you so much for this recommendation because I 100% think this is going to be a 5 out of 5 star read. We then also have Gods of Jade and Shadow by Silvia Moreno Garcia, and this one couldn't have come at a better time for me because I recently picked up and loved Mexican Gothic by the same author, and obviously, like I said, another recommendation in that tweet was this, so this was like the one book that someone would recommend to me, and given that I'd already just loved a book by them, I was so keen and excited to read more. I believe this is quite different in tone, this is quite different in genre, it's still kind of surreal, but maybe more magical realism, erring on light fantasy, but also set in Mexico during, in this instance, the Jazz Age, so a little bit earlier than Mexican Gothic. So historical fantasy, shall we say. I don't know if it's as creepy as Mexican Gothic, however, but I am super excited. It's about Cassiopeia, who is too busy scrubbing floors in her wealthy grandfather's house to do more than dream of a life far from her small town in southern Mexico, until the day she accidentally frees an ancient Mayan god of death, who offers her a deal. In return for Cassiopeia's help in recovering his throne, he will grant her whatever she desires. From the jungles of Yucatan to the bright lights of Mexico City, and deep into the darkness of the Mayan underworld, Cassiopeia's adventure will take her on a perilous cross-country odyssey beyond anything she's ever known. That sounds brilliant, like that 100% sounds like a book I would be drawn to anyway, plus that cover, but given that I've also now fallen in love with Silvia Moreno Garcia's writing. I cannot wait. These are both super exciting to me. We then have one that honestly I don't know how it's taken me so long to pick up. That was the last straw when it was recommended to me because I've heard so many good things about it, and that's The Binding by Bridget Collins. This is another historical-esque fantasy novel, I believe. It's about Emmett Farmer, who is a binder's apprentice. His job is to handcraft beautiful books, and within each to capture something unique and extraordinary, a memory. If you have something you want to forget or a secret to hide, he can bind it, and you will never have to remember the pain it caused. I do believe, however, from what I've heard, that during his time as a binder, he ends up finding on a bookcase where these memories are stored one of his own memories, and obviously he can't remember why on earth he would have had that taken from him, had that binded and put in these archives, and it sort of leads him on this journey of discovery. Like, does he want to know, does he not want to know? And I've heard that the writing is stunning. Like, I think this is one of those books that sort of veers towards a more literary fantastical, and I know that Huck over at Badger Reads adored this book, and I fully trust her opinion on pretty much all literature, so if she loved this, I've no doubt I'm going to love it, and I'm just really pleased to have finally picked up a copy. We do have some ebooks like I mentioned, but I think I'll just carry on with the physical books and then move into the ebooks at the end. So some more specific recommendations I asked for on Twitter recently were both sort of sci-fi for somebody getting into sci-fi who, like myself, very much enjoyed The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, and also dark horror thriller, but that also has a bit of romance, because for whatever reason I have been really craving a sort of blend of those two genres. So the first one is more explicit sci-fi and definitely came from that sort of recommendation pool, and it's Do You Dream of Terra 2 by Temi O. So this is one I'd actually seen a lot as well in the bookshops on display, like it's been sort of front and centre on a lot of like new releases shelves in the bookshops, but I wasn't really sure what it was about. I did, however, take the opportunity as it was recommended to me to pick it up. And like I said, I really enjoyed The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet recently, and I've been wanting to try more sci-fi, but I'm also trying to feel for what kind of sci-fi I like, because it's obviously a very broad genre and I've not read that much, but I also love books like All Systems Red or The Tea Master and the Detective. Those are the kind of sci-fi I've enjoyed so far, and I'm trusting that I will hopefully enjoy this one as well. It is about a group of teenagers who are trained for a mission to go into outer space. They've been training for their whole life. This is what they've been raised to do. And it's not just any journey to outer space, it is a mission to terraform or settle on a new planet, which is in some ways very similar to the Earth, and scientists believe could be a new planet for humans to live on. I always find it really interesting, the concept that there's another Earth-like planet but that doesn't have any other population on it, because that seems surprising, because then it can't have been that similar to Earth, can it? But to be honest, I doubt it all goes as smoothly as everyone's hoping. It never does in books, and I'm just really excited to see what's in store. We then have The Luminous Dead by Caitlin Starling. So this is like a sci-fi horror. It's about Gear Price, who lied her way into this expedition. She thought she'd been mapping mineral deposits and the greatest dangers might be cave collapses and gear malfunctions. She also thought the fat paycheck meant she'd get a skilled surface team monitoring her suit and environment, keeping her safe, keeping her sane. Instead, she got M. M sees nothing wrong with controlling Gear's body with drugs or withholding critical information to ensure the smooth operation of her expedition. M knows all about Gear's falsified credentials and has no qualms using them as a leash and a lash, and M has secrets too. So this sounds super disturbing, but I am so in the mood for horror, and given that I also want to try more sci-fi, I love the idea of a sort of science fiction horror. We then have a book that is both a thriller and a romance, like I was looking for, and it's by quite a well-known author who I've never read before, and that is Nora Roberts. This is Midnight Bayou. I bought this secondhand and I love how kind of cheesy it looks. I'm really drawn to these kind of sort of cheesy 90s covers. When did this come out? This looks very 90s to me. 2001 actually, so a little bit later than I was expecting. But this is, like I said, both a thriller and a romance, and I'm really excited to read a book that's both, because I haven't really read a book that is fully both those things before, but Nora Roberts came highly recommended when I said I was in the mood for that kind of book. This is about Declan Fitzgerald, who buys a like sort of manor house in New Orleans with the plans of doing it up, but it turns out there is a local legend surrounding this house that says that it's haunted, and only the companionship of alluring Angelina Simone can distract him from the mysterious happenings in the house. But Angelina has her own surprising connection to Manet Hall. So don't know what to expect. Everyone suggested Nora Roberts. In particular, someone said that Midnight Bayou would be a perfect one to go for, and I'm really excited to read it, as I am with all these books. We then have a book that kind of falls into the remits of this haul, so I thought it would be worth mentioning, and that is We Were Always Here, a queer words anthology, by many people obviously because it's an anthology. And I actually picked this up because it is a book club read. So Molly and Lily are hosting a book club where they read queer literature, and they have booktubers guest host live shows with them to discuss the book, and they invited me on to talk about this one, which we will be discussing in September. I will link all the details of the book club and both Molly and Lily's YouTube channels down below, but I figured, you know, that's kind of a recommendation from a subscriber, but it also means you know about it ahead of the book club in case you want to read it as well. And it is, I mean, pretty self-explanatory from the title, but from what I gather, this is a real mixture of genres. So it's an anthology of queer words, so some of it is fiction, some of it is poetry, some of the entries are essays, like a little bit of everything. And I quite enjoy an anthology for the potential to discover new authors inside, and obviously I always really enjoy reading more books from more queer authors. So super excited about this. Like I said, all the details of the book club will be linked down below, as well as Molly and Lily's channels. In fact, whilst we're on the topic of other booktubers, I thought I would include the next few books in this haul because they just seem to fit. Even though I didn't buy them, they were picked by others for me because they were gifts. So the first two books I have here were sent to me by the wonderful, lovely, thoughtful Tanya over at Bookish Topics. Her channel will of course also be linked down below, and I was not expecting these. She sent them from my wish list and it was such a lovely surprise. Honestly, like, I don't know how to express my gratitude to those who have sent me gifts over the past few months, but I know that a lot of you have said that you kind of just wanted to like send me a gift because you've been really appreciating my videos during quarantine and lockdown, and I don't expect gifts, but just hearing from anyone in that context, or just for a comment that like the content I've been making during this really difficult time period has sort of provided you some sort of entertainment or solace, has kind of had me on the verge of tears. It's so emotional to know that, because I myself get a lot of solace and comfort from YouTube and watching other people's videos and also filming my own and then having conversations with you, and it just makes me feel like I'm part of such a wonderful community. So that's the end of that gush, but I was super grateful for these lovely, lovely gifts, and I am so excited for both of these. So the first one is Tack to Me, and this is an anthology of Arctic horror stories. So these are a bunch of different horror short stories by different authors from the Arctic, and I don't think I have ever read a piece of literature by an Arctic author to my knowledge that I've been like explicitly aware of. So I think this is going to be so fascinating to read some literature from a part of the world that I'm not as familiar with, and also just be introduced to some more voices in horror, because like I said, I have been so into my horror recently. It says on the back that Tack to Me itself specifically means in the dark, and all of these stories play on that theme about terrifying, creepy things that hide in the dark. And I also just think this cover is beautiful because it's so dark you don't necessarily notice it at first, but it has a crow on the front and I love it. So I am so excited about this. I totally would have ended up buying it for myself quite soon if Tanya hadn't gotten it for me, but I'm so, so grateful. And then she also picked me up Catherine House by Elizabeth Thomas, which is another sort of creepy story, but this one is a novel. But the blurb says that Catherine House is a university like no other, so not just a house, sorry, a university, actually even better. Into its celebrated world steps Innes, a young woman who welcomes the school's isolation rather than its illustrious past. But as the gates close and Innes finds herself start to be inevitably seduced by its magnetic power, she begins to realise the question isn't why she chose to come to Catherine House, but why Catherine House chose her. Like, that is a lesson in writing a blurb. That is a brilliant blurb, and I am so excited about this book and this book. So thank you so much, Tanya. And on that theme, I did actually receive one other gift from my wish list recently, but it was sent anonymously, so I don't know who you are, but I am very, very grateful, and I'm so excited about this book. It is the first in the Lockwood & Co series by Jonathan Stroud, which is called The Screaming Staircase. And this is a middle grade, I think it's like an older middle grade series, maybe like, you know, that sort of like early verging into YA. paranormal, mystery, historical. It's set in like a fantastical world, but it sounds like vaguely historical. And in this world there are ghosts, but only children can see ghosts. So they have these sort of like ghost busting paranormal detective agencies that hire children to help them sort of identify these ghosts. And we follow Lockwood & Co, who are the only agency like this that is exclusively run by children as well. And I think that sounds like so much fun. I've heard such good reviews for this. It comes highly, highly, highly recommended, and it was so kind that somebody else chose it for me because I'm super excited to read it. So this one is also really high up on my TBR. But like I mentioned, I also have a couple of ebooks I treated to myself too, because I realised they were all around like 99p after they were recommended to me on Twitter. And if an ebook is 99p, I have no self-control. I have to buy it. So first up we have Crystal Gardens by Amanda Quick, which is a pen name for Jane Ann Krentz, and this was from the romantic thrillers recommendations, and it's specifically a historical romantic thriller, which just sounds even better, so I'm super excited. And this author seems to have written a lot of books, so it's nice to think that if I enjoy this, I'll have plenty of others to check out. It follows novelist and professional companion Evangeline Ames, who has rented a cottage on the outskirts of Little Dixby, far from the London streets where she was recently attacked. Fascinated by the paranormal energy of nearby Crystal Gardens, she instinctively goes there for safety, where she meets Lucas Sebastian. Okay, so both of these characters have psychic talents which lead them to be detectives, but also potentially start up a romance with one another. So it is historical, it is romantic, and it's also paranormal, which sounds brilliant. We then have Earthrise by M.C.A. Hogarth, which is from the science fiction recommendations. And this is about Rhys Eddings, who has enough to do keeping her rattletrap merchant vessel, the TMS Earthrise, profitable enough to feed herself and her crew. So when a mysterious benefactor from her past shows up demanding she rescue a man from slavers, her first reaction is to run for the hills. Unfortunately, she did promise to repay the loan, but she didn't think it would involve tangling with pirates over a space elf prince. You know, I bought this at the time because it sounded fantastic, but I hadn't read the blurb again since, and rereading it has just got me all the more excited. That sounds brilliant. I am so excited for that. Those are all the books that my subscribers chose for me, even when they didn't necessarily realise that they were choosing them. I am so excited about all of them, and I'm always so grateful for your recommendations on Twitter, or sometimes Goodreads, where I also sometimes ask, and actually sometimes Instagram. But specifically Twitter is like my go-to place to ask for recommendations. So if you've ever recommended me a book according to a question I've asked on Twitter, thank you, genuinely. Even if it's not in this video, there's a good chance it's on my TBR or my wish list, so I may very well check it out in the future. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have read any of these books, what you thought of them, or if you have any more recommendations based on the themes I mentioned. But until next time, happy reading, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye guys!